So the whole world is celebrating the fireworks, and this is the only time I have to go live, and I meant to go live sooner. So the live I was going to make was about honoring the space next to you. And I am absolutely going to do that live, but tomorrow sometime. Okay? Because honoring the space next to you is a very important conversation. It's such an important conversation because, see, as women, when we honor the space next to us, we actually give something for men, or the masculine energy in women, I don't care which one, to strive for. It gives them something to do, which engages their sense of purpose and value, and then which then helps them to fall in love with you, because it's the effort that they've exerted for this prize, right? But today I want to talk to you about something different. Thank you for the person that asked that question. Today I want to talk to you about encountering the valley of the shadow of death. And it's a really important part, because if you do all the work and you still don't see any change, and you get mad and angry and all of this stuff, I want you to understand how pointless it actually is and what's actually happening instead. Can you guys hear the fireworks outside? I'm sorry. All right. So what's actually happening is that you've reached the end of your construct. You've reached the end. You've reached the valley of death. You've reached the point of the construct that you really don't want anything to do with, right? This is old you. This is wounded you. This is the you that you've rejected, right? You want something other than what you have. So it's really, really important to get past this barrier. But the fact remains that you've walked so far into this construction that this is the only thing that's real. This is the only thing you see. So if you've been working on someone changing for you, it's not that they haven't changed. Of course they've changed. You're the one that hasn't, so you can't see that change in them. See, what we're working on is being undivided. That's really the bottom line. You are working on being undivided. So I want to talk to you about this, okay? In a love relationship, there are two ways to communicate. And many of us don't realize that we may be choosing the wrong one. So let's say that we're in a love relationship where things don't happen to be changing, and this is the construct that we have, and we're triggered because we're in it, and we know we've created it, but we don't know how the fuck to get out. Right? So there you are, standing in front of your mirror, and your mirror, who happens to be your twin, has no choice but to show up as your being. Okay? So now you're in this situation. And there are two ways to talk to your twin. The first way is the most common way. Death. Death. Let me tell you about death. Death sounds a little more like this. You're never there for me. Word vomit. You're yelling at the mirror for being as you are being to yourself. So in that moment, you're speaking death. Now, please answer me. If you were on the receiving end of this communication, would you be drawn in or repelled? If you love yourself, I promise you that's not going to draw you in. If you love yourself, you're going to put a hard stop to that. Brakes. That's not how you talk to me. Have you forgotten that I am being exactly as you're being so you can see yourself? Okay? So when you see that they don't appreciate anything, or when you say all of this stuff, really what you're mad at is yourself for the construct you've created. If someone loves themselves enough to put a break to that, then that's telling you something. Now, the other way to have this exact same conversation is, I've had a rough day. What's your day look like? I could use someone to talk to. Would that draw you in or out? but it's a loving communication. And if that loving communication doesn't come across, why should someone who loves themselves be like, okay? It doesn't work that way. And it really hurts to be on the receiving end of that. Because it really looks as if you're saying all of this to another human being, but you're really just saying it to yourself. And since that person is yourself, that person feels that pain and will run away from it. Why? Should I be drawn by someone who speaks death over my life? Okay? Now that's just in a romantic relationship. You could be dealing with a mother and a daughter. You could be dealing with your father. You could be dealing with the construct in workers' relationships. It really doesn't matter, because here's the bottom line. I always use love as an example, right? But here's the bottom line. It's you on every dimension, baby doll. So if you have problems at work, if you have problems in your relationships, if you have problems, who caused them? Ourselves. Until we own that, we can't move past it. So what's happening is, here you are staring at the end of your construct and judging it. Judging it. You're angry with it. You're annoyed with it. These are the things that you reject about yourself. The things that you haven't liked. For example, in a love relationship, if you're always the one taken for granted, then you're automatically expecting to be taken for granted. So when it appears that way to you, you get mad at that person. That person's innocent. That person's never taking you for granted. You're not even giving them a chance to appreciate you. You're creating the construct that you don't want to be in. Okay? This is the valley of shadow of death. This is our ego's greatest tool. If you have read Lise Bourbeau's book, Ego, the Greatest Obstacle, this is it. The valley of the shadow of death. The valley of the things that you hate about yourself. But if you remember, and if you have forgotten, God said, I am all things, both good and bad. So if you're rejecting those things that you consider bad, are you not rejecting yourself? And would yourself not feel that and therefore act accordingly? This doesn't take rocket science, guys. You have to understand you're the light within it. You're at the end of your construct. So the proper way is not to forget that you're dealing with yourself at all times. Try loving communications. You might get loving communications back instead of someone that keeps running away from this shit. You have to be this, or you can't have it. The spot next to God is earned by you. You must realize that you are everything on earth and must make peace with your past, must make peace with your injuries, must make peace with everything so that you can see what is being reflected in front of you. But if you remain divided, then why should you have what's on the other side? Why should you? You know the design. You should know the design by now. Okay? Everything you see with your eyes outside represent 2 points, where 2 points intersect. What you don't want and what you do want. You stand precisely in the middle of both those things, so that what you see in all directions is what you don't want and what you do want at the same time. Then as the potter, you take what you don't want, make it into something you do want, and 3D doesn't get to make you its bitch. But if you don't understand that, What you don't want makes you its bitch. And you suffer. But you suffer alone and at your hand because you're not accepting yourself. You're not making peace with what's in front of you, and you're reacting and screaming and yelling at the mirror. Do you really think that helps? No, it does not. It doesn't. It's not appealing. It's repelling. Not intentionally, because everybody does this to themselves. You're never being rejected. You're the one that has to make peace with this valley. So as I said, the greatest obstacle to you is your shadow. It's what you're seeing, your rejected aspect. This is the valley of shadow of death. This is the ring of fear that your mind must transcend to have everything it desires. So if you've done all the work, if you put in all the construct and you say, okay, it's really cool, but I've done all of it. Now fuck it, I'm tired. I shouldn't force the square peg into a round hole. What the fuck? You've reached that point. I'm quite familiar with that point. Then believe in what you created more than you believe in what you're seeing. Until it changes in your image. That's the whole purpose of the design. But the ego's greatest trick is to show you all the rejected aspects of yourself that are unforgiven. If they triggered you before, they're certainly going to trigger you in the human being that you love. In all the human beings that you love, because they all have to appear that way. Work will be chaotic. Family will be chaotic. Everything. It's you. Your greatest obstacle to love that you deserve is your ego. Because your ego has to show you what you don't like about yourself in order to make peace with it. If you do not, you will project out into the world bodies that animate to show you what you are being. And that's how we get stuck in the valley of shadow of death. We get stuck there. But if you remember the song correctly, truth is supposed to be our light and our lamp under our feet. And we're supposed to be armed with those truths in order to get through this stage in our lives. So this is what we do when the opposite appears. When the opposite of what we desire appears, we have to remember. Back to the design. God's ideas are whole. The exact opposite of what you're seeing exists inside of you. And the opposite can be the absolute best the world has to offer. Like, really good. And then on the other side, your 3D experience is the stuff that you don't want. It is your job to believe in your dream more than you are in what you're seeing. And I understand one thing. It might feel as if you're delusional. But see, I'm not asking you to change what has already been formed at all. I'm asking you to change how you perceive it in the same way that we use the caveman analogy. Remember, the caveman comes at you wielding a knife and you think, oh my God, what a savage man. Nah. He's a total savage. He's scary. Okay? Then our eyes adjust in the cave. Eyes fully adjusted. We realize there's a saber-toothed tiger in the fucking cave and he's protecting his family. Now, his act of self has not changed. He's still looking like a savage. But suddenly your perception of the very same action that you've seen before has suddenly changed in value. Who changed? You did. Your perception of the whole picture did. So it's not about changing what's outside. It's about changing the perception of what has occurred. in understanding why it's happening to you. When you have that peace, it doesn't matter what anybody does. Because you can perceive it accurately as the light of the world making its own shadow. But this level of peace, yeah, you have to walk up to your valley of shadow of death. Because man is afraid. God knows better. You can't serve both masters. So if you choose fear, understand you're going to choose everything in the world that you don't want. But if you choose faith and you follow through, God does the rest. God will meet you where you're at. But God can't give you what you don't give yourself. It's the whole purpose of twin flames. Like, legitimately, the only reason for them to exist is to teach the world how to love themselves. And if they can't be the example, then they shouldn't be on the mission. Now it's your job to be on that mission. Your mission, above all other things, is to love yourself. Love yourself so hard that you realize that the world is in your mind. And although it appears outside, it can only be made in your image, in your construct. What is visible so you can see what's behind it. This is all strictly the Gospel of Thomas. I love you guys. I love you guys so much that I worked 12 hours on a holiday. 13, 14 hours. Do you know what I did today? I served a bunch of distraught women all over the country for 12 hours today, straight through, all distraught over their own self-concept. This makes a lot more work for me, doesn't it? So if you can be at peace with yourself, I'll work less. If you can't be at peace, I'm going to work a lot harder. Then I'm not leaving you guys. I'm making it right. That's what God does. God loves everything equally. Not one problem is too small. It's all God. It is your job to be at peace so that you can get to the other side. But I know it is not easy. Believe me when I say that you're in the thick of it. It is not easy. It looks all too real. I know. And yet if you remember, not one body exists in the world without you, then that allows you to take peace over this. All right, you guys? Now, I apologize for the fireworks. I apologize for my dog. I apologize for everything, but I just felt the need to help because you have no idea how busy I've been today. Okay? In a good way. I love it. They're conversations with myself, clearly. Okay? You have to understand the design to be free in it. The only division that needs to ever be healed is your division from God. It's an imaginary one, but it certainly is one that's convincing. We've made it. Make peace with what you're seeing, and that allows you to get to the other side. It allows you to have your caveman moment, where What has happened hasn't changed, but your understanding of it has. That's what you're after. That allows you to walk past your ego's trick to keep you inside your construct. Your ego does this because it's afraid to die. Understandably so. Do you know why? Because even though maybe your life was hard, even though all of these things, that have happened to you or whatever, all of these things are still you. They make you you. They made everything you are. So you love that construct more than you realize. So the ego's greatest trick is, let me show you the shadow so that you stay in here, because you're going to run from the rejected experience. So I know that. So as your ego, I'm going to put that barrier right there. And what happens? You can't get past your 3D box. You can't, because what you're seeing is scarier. The problem with that is this. As a goddess or a god, because you're all aspects of that, you are like a lion. And the circumstances outside are like a mouse. And the way that you know that is, if I were to shrink everything in the universe, I take all the empty space out and I leave only the matter, it fits in the palm of my hand and it's the size of a pea. So you are allowing something the size of a pea to make you its servant. This is the state of Moses. He was born a slave. Your choice if you want to be enslaved to that. It's serving the wrong master, but it is your choice if you want to be there. Okay? And the reason you do it is because you're in love with who you've been. You're in love with who you are. You're in love with all the experiences, whether you appreciated them as much as you wanted to. They still made you you. So that's what you're going to see. That's exactly what you're going to see. And until you're at peace with that, the ego cannot stop using it as the tool that keeps you boxed in. That's why it's so important to see through it and say, it's okay. You're not going to die. You're not going to die. It feels like you're dying. You are not. This is your ego trying to scare you into remaining in the construct that you're trying so desperately to run from. But here's the thing. Remember how the mirror works? So if you think you're running away from something, you're actually running towards it, which makes it worse. Ego's greatest tool. But then, like I said, you're serving the wrong master. You're serving the darkness. And the darkness is something that serves us. But until you realize you're the light, you can't understand the shadow. So we have to come back to the same thing. Make peace with what you're seeing. And your ego does not get to be boss. You do. Your ego needs to take a back seat. It really does. Your ego needs to be told it's your personal assistant. That way it'll stop getting in the way of what you desire. That's what this is about. And this video was made for the person that asked the question. What do I do? I'm in it. Like, I've done all the work and I can manifest things. I believe in the power of manifestation. It manifests perfectly. I get it. But when it comes to me, what the fuck? So that's what this call is about. This right here, this video is about, this is exactly what's happening. You are stuck in the valley of shadow of death. You are stuck in the middle of your ring of fear, and your ego is absolutely going to keep you here until you can face it without fear. Because without fear, you now have God power. With fear, you have human power. The two cannot coexist. But fear never belongs in a relationship. That's death. Eternal life without fear. Okay? So what you're learning to do is look at the things you're afraid of, look at the things you've rejected, accept them, appreciate them, and this will allow you to get past the barrier. The answer is in the trigger. But the truth is, it's like a video game. It's like a video game. Okay? Here you go. And you ever play a video game, you can't get past the level, and you play it 5 million times and you're determined to get past the level. I gotta get past the level. You gotta get past the level, okay? That's what this moment is. But if you get past the level, you get to your desired state. If you don't, you stuck on repeat. And then it really doesn't matter who you choose to play it out, because it'll always be the same exact image. So if you're going to get past the level, you're going to have to accept this. This allows us to get on the other side of that. Otherwise, well, we can always stay stuck on that level. But you know what's so fun about that? Is that level sucks. We don't need it anymore. We've outgrown it. Which is why our body starts screaming for growth. So it really doesn't matter how long it takes you to figure this out. You have an eternity. But your desire is available to you now. So long as you can face yourself like this, where what happens doesn't change, but your perception has. Yeah? All right, you guys. Happy Independence Day for those in the US. For those that are in Europe, well, join us in the One Nation Under God celebration we got going on here, guys. I love you so much. Think about what I'm saying. Because this is how you get to the other side when the opposite appears. When you've done all the work and it doesn't seem to change and you get frustrated, it's here. It's making peace with what's in front of you so you can get past it. And then I promise you it will. I will. And you've heard the stories. You've had the success stories of people that change instantly all the time. And you get glimpses of this beautiful construction that you know is on the other side. And you get glimpses and you touch it. That yo-yo, all of that can stop. But you have to be the stable force. Otherwise, you're the yo-yo. And the mirror can't give you what you won't give yourself. All right. Love you guys.